Joining us now on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline is the Director of Scouting or Optimum Scouting, and the lead NFL draft analyst for Sporting News, Eric Galko. Eric, welcome back to the show.
How are you guys doing today?
Great. Where does this day rank on your list of best days of the year?
You know, it's kind of a bittersweet weekend because you focus year-round on the draft, and really by next week we'll start on 2018. But, by Sunday I'm kind of a forgotten man, so I'll take the limelight while I can have it.
We won't forget you, Eric. Don't worry. Obviously, we want to talk about some of the BYU guys.
Yeah.
But before we do that, what is kind of your sense of what this draft could be like overall in terms of how it will be remembered a few years from now?
Yeah, I mean, we've been kind of spoiled these last few years as far as what the first and second pick overall are going to be. And we've seen for the last 5 years, quarterbacks go 1-2 this year. The Browns have done a fantastic job of helping out ESPN and making us all guess what the first overall pick will be. So, I've been thankful to kind of get a look at what NFL teams' internal mocks are. Every team kind of makes a mock draft themselves to kind of see who might be available. And seeing a bunch of those, teams have no idea what's going to happen. I've seen 4 or 5 guys considered for the second and third overall pick, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know if we'll see a lot of trades. I think that's kind of maybe a bit optimistic at this point because a lot of teams thinking in mid-round one like where they're at, but it's going to be a draft where I can promise you NFL GMs, even the most prepared ones, are not sure what's going to happen really with the first overall pick and throughout the top 10 and then beyond.
Follow him at Optimum Scouting. Eric Galko with us on BYU Sports Nation. Let's start with Jamal Williams, talented, record-setting BYU running back. Where do you expect Jamal to be drafted in terms of a round?
I think probably someplace early on day 3 at this point, rounds 4 through 5. I think he has a lot of interest from a handful of teams just because he's powerful. He can work at the second level. I think he's best when you have the blocking in front of him to take advantage of it at the second level. He's very tough against linebackers and safeties and hard to bring down, but also thinking adds value in a lot of ways to your team. So I think a lot of teams will want him. I think by round 4, when the running backs where that kind of value will pick up again, it'll be interesting. But I think a lot of it is, hey, if a team misses on Leonard Fournette and they also miss on Joe Mixon and they miss on a couple other guys that kind of fit what Jamal Williams can do, that's when the guys will like him. So I think if those running backs go earlier, especially the ones who are bigger, more, I guess, the Marco Murray-style runners that go early on, if a team wants a quicker back to miss out on McCaffrey, that won't be Jamal Williams. But I think if the bigger backs and more complete backs go early in the draft, Williams has a better chance to be a top 100 pick. But that being said, I think he ranks probably in the back end of the top 10 at running backs for most teams, and that's going to put him someplace on early day 3.
How about Harvey Langi, the inside linebacker from BYU? What do you think?
Yeah, not a great inside linebacker class. And we're going to see Hassan Reddick go someplace in the top 13, 14, 15 picks. Reuben Foster may fall a little bit, but he still has fans. Jarrett Davis of Florida will be a first-round pick as well. But after those guys and a handful of others, not a lot of inside linebackers to get excited about. And I think that really helps Harvey Langi because, he's a versatile guy. He's played special teams. He's played a bunch of positions while at BYU. So certainly teams like the Patriots and teams who are kind of valuing those guys as well will certainly covet him. So I think the earliest he can go, and I'd be surprised if he asked me this 3 weeks ago, but there's a chance he is the first BYU player taken in the draft. I think the third round is a bit optimistic. I think if teams are looking to fill their inside linebacker spot and linebacker in general, which a lot of teams are, I think he'll be in play by the 3rd or 4th round. But I'd be very surprised if he wasn't drafted. I think between 3rd and 6th round is where he's projected to go.
What do you think of the chances of Harvey being drafted before Jamal Williams are, Eric?
Yeah, I think it's certainly possible. And I think, running back is a position that has been constantly devalued, even though we'll see probably 3 go in the top 20, 25 picks. Unless a guy's a really special talent, if a team feels that way, they won't take him that highly. And they know they can always find running backs late, undrafted guys. And we just saw Adrian Peterson get signed for $3.5 million, which is peanuts for how talented he is. So I think teams are more likely to pass on running backs early than linebackers. So that being said, I think Langi's kind of reliability as a player in the NFL, special teams guy, versatile guy, can play a position that most teams want to have 5 or 6 linebackers who can play multiple spots. I think it's much easier for NFL teams to see Langi as hey, this guy will be on our team for 6+ years if he can, be our second contract guy. With Williams, he's maybe a 3 or 4 year guy with a certain team before he moves on. So I think from that perspective, just in general, because they have similar grades, I think Langi has a really good chance of being drafted higher. I think Williams has more upside and could be a better value, but I think he's similar to Devontae Booker last year, who people thought might be a second-round pick and fell to round 4. I think Williams has the same type of situation.
Of course, you had to mention the Utah guy on a BYU show, but whatever, it's all good. What are the chances BYU has a third draft pick, and who, in your opinion, maybe is the next best prospect from BYU?
Yeah, I don't think they will. I'm not sure any of the guys from BYU will be drafted, but maybe you guys can help me out and let me know if there's a guy I'm missing here from BYU. But I know Taysom Hill has some interest. I think he'll get a chance after the draft to be on a team, but I'd be shocked if he's drafted overall, just because it's a pretty strong quarterback class. And we're going to see probably 8 go or 9 go in the top 100 picks. But unless I'm missing some guys, and you guys can help me out.
What about Kai Nakua? Yeah, Kai Nakua is a name that has popped up on an occasional draft board now and again at safety.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Safety is a very deep class as well. And I think the reason I bring that up especially is that once teams fill those guys in the top 4 or 5 rounds, we won't see many safeties go after that. I know teams draft boards at cornerback and safety, and there's as many as 15 cornerbacks with first, second, or third round grades by teams. That's a lot. Safety, first, second, third round grades, depending on who you ask, probably in the 10 or 12 area. So the more safeties and cornerbacks that go earlier, that actually hurts guys like him as well. So I would say no on him as well. I think maybe the 2 BYU guys probably going someplace between round 3 and at the latest round 6. So I think both guys go someplace on 4 or 5.
Andrew Idy was BYU's left tackle the entire season, a guy who played guard previously at Southern Utah, a guy that is trying to become a center in the NFL. How deep is the O-line class in this draft? Because I'm hearing it's relatively weak, which might give a guy like Andrew Idy a shot at a free agent contract. Yeah,
it's a very weak offensive line class, and really across the board. There's only 2 or 3 centers that are worth top 100 picks. Not a whole lot of guards, depending on which team you ask. After the first couple rounds, at offensive tackle, we're going to see a run on them go in the top 25 picks just because there's not a lot in the back end. But, teams, depending on who you ask, really don't like this offensive line class. Some are okay with it. And I think that the fact that we're not going to see a lot of guys go early is going to mean teams are going to either say, no thanks on drafting the position, which can certainly help him, or take guys early and hope they can fill those needs. So we won't see a lot of teams reaching for offensive linemen. We won't see a lot of offensive linemen drafted. This could be one of the fewest offensive linemen across all 3 positions drafted in the last couple of years, because teams are just saying, we'll just pass on it this year. We'll try some guys out and undrafted free agency and see if they can work out and, bide our time for a year before next year, which should be a much better offensive line class. So I think you guys make a great point. And I think the weak offensive line class after the first run goes in early round 1 and probably another run in the back end of round 2. It'll be a pretty dead market, and I think teams will be aggressive on undrafted free agency to get their guys.
A few years ago, we went from no running backs in the first round to all of a sudden Ezekiel Elliott maybe changing the dynamic of that. What's your opinion of how that affects maybe this year's NFL draft with running backs maybe in the first round this year, given how good the class is?
Yeah, I think Todd Gurley showed that he can lead an offense in St. Louis and now L.A. I think Ezekiel Elliott showed that being the 4th overall pick was not a reach and a great value for how much of an impact he made as a rookie. And I think with running backs, I think it was a bit of an overcorrection for a minute there in the NFL with saying, hey, no running backs are worth first-round picks. And that was obviously kind of a misnomer. But I think what teams are appreciating now is, hey, if we're taking a running back in round 1, he's got to be a guy that is the centerpiece of our offense. Just like a receiver, when you take that kind of guy, he's got to be a difference maker and a matchup nightmare for the opposing team, or else he's not worth a round 1 pick. The same is going for running backs. So I think running backs that can't do 1 or 2 things really special, they'll fall in the draft, and they won't be top 2 or 3 round picks. We won't see those guys going that early ever again. But I think guys like Leonard Fournette, who has, Bo Jackson, like athletic ability, like Christian McCaffrey, who's a better version of Brian Westbrook, and by one team compared to LaDainian Tomlinson or Dalvin Cook, who has really special film. Unless you're really special, you won't be a first-round pick. I think NFL teams have learned their lesson there. But, teams are smart. Top-end talents like these 3 guys deserve to go in the top 20 picks, and they will in the 2017 draft.
Eric Galko of Optimum Scouting with us on BYU Sports Nation. You can follow him at that Twitter account at Optimum Scouting, a significant contributor for the Sporting News, lead NFL draft analyst. Then there is the curious case of BYU quarterback Taysom Hill. I know you dropped his name as a guy that you expect to get a free agent contract. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he ran the fastest 40 time of any quarterback in the draft, 4.44, and he was clocked at that twice. What does something like that for a 26-year-old quarterback do to make NFL scouts think, yeah, he's old, but I still want him on my team?
Yeah, and the question is, they like him and they're intrigued by him, but are they going to give him, A, chance to come in training camp, and B, will it be a legitimate chance in training camp? And there are a lot of quarterbacks every year. I think, keep in mind, most teams now, I think probably 20, 23 teams are keeping only 2 quarterbacks. That's 64 spots to 90 spots filled already, and most of these guys aren't retiring after 4 or 5 years. So on average, about 7 to 9 quarterbacks are added to the NFL every year on a roster or a practice squad. A little bit more than that based on the influx of practice squad guys. So is he one of the 10 or so guys we think is going to be an NFL quarterback in the next 2-3 years? That's up for teams to decide. But the arm talent's there. We've seen the highlights. We've seen the athletic ability. The age is a question, but for teams looking for a reliable backup, they could be okay with that. But that's the concern. Can this guy come in? He's flashy. He has tremendous athletic ability. Is a quarterback we want him to play. But I think more importantly, teams are not going to expect Taysom Hill to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. So can he be a guy who can help in a quarterback room? Does he pick up the game in the offense really well? Can he be a guy that, if we have to put him in as a backup in an injury spot, can he be efficient for us? Those are the questions that I think Taysom Hill has to answer, not now, but when he does get his opportunity in the NFL, to make the most of that. But we've seen guys like him from bigger programs with a lot of talent. Guys like Connor Shaw come to mind from South Carolina, who was underappreciated most of his career and stuck with the Browns for 3-4 years. I think Taysom Hill can use that as kind of a guideline of what he could be.
He's 26. He's had 4 career-ending injuries. That's some serious baggage into the NFL. But is there any shot of him, say quarterback doesn't work out, he's so athletic you switch positions and try him at safety or something, or is that crazy?
Well, the fact that he's 26, right, and he's had the injuries, I mean, you're going to develop a guy at a new position at age of 26. It's tough to imagine that. So certainly the odds are stacked against him. And I think teams have gotten very smart, I will say, at when a guy is a football player, which is a cliche, but also a great athlete, teams will give that guy a chance as much as possible. And I think that's the one thing going for him, whether it's a position change. You'll see top-end defensive or offensive linemen with that great athletic ability asked to switch positions, even though it's unlikely they'll make it because teams want to get athletes and guys who want to send the game a chance to play on their roster. So I think those odds are working against Taysom Hill, but he'll have a chance in a pro day, at a mini camp and at a tryout to show himself as a quarterback or as an athlete. But I think more importantly, he's got to impress coaches that, hey, he's worth keeping around and we'll find a home for him someplace.
Eric, great stuff. Enjoy these 3 days and then go into hibernation for like 3 months. It's going to be fantastic.
We'll remember you.
Give me a call sometime in May or June. I'll be free, I promise.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, guys.
Eric Galko on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Deseret First, your values, your timeline, your financial future.